Welcome, everyone, to this week's Elemental Evolution. I hope you've all had a fantastic week, as usual. I'm excited about today's show, and I know I kind of blasted Rhonda right at the end with who we were having on and kind of the topics, and so I know that she's excited too. Hey, Rhonda.
Hi there, everybody. How are we doing today? I'm kind of caught off guard with this. This is great. I'm so excited about this guest because this is something that I have been questioning for a long time. So, Dan, you're going to share a lot of information with us, and I'm so excited.
So, welcome, everybody. Help me and Rhonda welcome Daniel Crumpton to the show.
People of Earth, I have just changed weed guys, so this will be very good. Tune in. Hey, guys.
Ooh, we love that.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I had to switch up my Connect, so, oh, we're not supposed to say stuff like that on the air. Like a plant that God created is actually something that's supposed to be consumed. You might open your eyes a little bit. But let's not say that on the air. Oh, wait, we're on the internet, so it's cool, right?
And I live in Colorado, so we're good.
Oh, see, I'm down here in Georgia.
Oh.
Down here in Georgia, we haven't quite evolved to Colorado.
Yeah, we're aware of that.
Give us a little bit more time. We may speak very slow, but we think quite fast.
Well, you're going to prove that to us today because I actually, I was telling Rhonda and Steven that I had been on the Chuck Ocelli show with you. And I'll be honest with you, I had heard of you through different circles. I know people that have interviewed you before, and I know that your material is well liked, but I really didn't know what you were all about.
Yeah, that's what my mom said.
You're a big surprise.
What have we done?
Well, it's been fabulous, and whatever she did a great job because I felt like I had a conversation with you that was intelligent and not demeaning in a way that you and I both could have a different idea and agree that there are a lot of similarities, in fact, mostly similarities. And you also added some things into that kind of broke it down for me as to where they originated as opposed to what the indoctrination of origination is. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, sure.
So that was fabulous. And so,
go ahead. I'm sorry. Oh, no, go ahead. You're fine. You're the host.
Oh, yeah. I always
steer the ship.
Oh, yeah. Shit. Hope we don't hit rough winds. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so it's Rhonda's fascinated in this as well because she was reared, very Catholic.
Oh, okay.
And still has a lot of that belief in kind of a combination with a lot of the things that you and I talked about, which seems to be very similar to what you've done, but it's not like you're just like picking and choosing, like you actually gave definition of where and how you came up with those ideas.
Okay, well, first, you know your audience better than I do. I think I've been on People's Internet Radio once before, I think with Kira. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now I understand the audience I'm talking to. Because depending on what network I'm on, we're not going to talk about reptilians on this, network and stuff like that, right?
We can talk about anything on this network, as long as you don't cuss. You're not allowed to cuss at all.
Thank you for telling me that. I appreciate
cussing.
that.
No cussing at all. I'm the only one who gets to just cuss like a sailor. Remember you said the captain thing?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. You can cuss. I was just joking.
All right.
No, we can't cuss. I kick Sherri into the table all the time, but she slips it in. She does.
There's a difference between using it to, and exhausting it, but a well-timed F-bomb is, sometimes it's really needed, But,
see, that's what I say. I think mine is always what do you call that? When you're laying it right at the right moment. Not everyone agrees with me. But I think that language, which is something else that where you and I are going to get into, has a very profound effect on people. And sometimes when you say something that shocks them, they have more of a tendency to listen to what you say after.
Right. That's exactly right. It's for shock value.
Yeah. And here, especially because I'm this little, oh, it's Sherri, happy love light. And then all of a sudden I'm like,
Yeah, I want to talk about that too. But before we go any further, you said you've heard about me from other people who've interviewed me?
Well, I watched a bunch. Okay,
all right. So some of it's bad, believe it or not. There are people who don't like me, believe it or not.
I didn't see any of that. And I didn't see any of that. And I'll be honest with you, I liked the interviews. I read your material. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed the material. It was not that, again, it wasn't what I expected. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm just going to bust it out in the very beginning, because when I first heard about you, I saw your picture on Skype. That's all I had known of you. Mm-hmm. I was on the Chuck Uccelli show. He's interviewed you. You actually have quite a good relationship with him, I think.
Very good.
Yeah, and in your picture, I'm thinking to myself, of course I did not say any of this, but I'm thinking to myself, oh my God.
All right, well, tell people what the picture is who aren't on my Skype list.
Where is this? All right, Daniel, first of all, you have to add me so that I can see this picture.
Okay, well, it's like he's holding a flag up above his head, like getting ready to put it into the ground, like at a memorial or something. Mm-hmm. Right?
And then, all right, go ahead.
Okay, so this is, in my mind, I'm just going to tell you and then please explain it, because it's such a great... Anyway, it was a shocker. Anyway, so I see this, and I'm thinking, oh, God, this is going to be some Christian Republican coming up here to just reel on crap. I mean,
don't forget, Sherri, Jesus loves you.
Oh, that's what I was just expecting. I'm just thinking, this has got to be some kind of a joke. Like, the universe is, like, thinking this is really funny. Anyway, then you come on, and Chuck kind of even introduced you as not being extremely spiritual or something. I don't know. It was different. And then all of a sudden you started talking, and it was amazing. I was so impressed by the way that you communicated the different aspects of the Bible, which was one of the most fascinating things for me, because I will rear up against the Bible 100,000 times.
Right.
And you didn't make me feel like I wanted to do that.
Right. Good. I'm glad that's what you got.
It was great.
First, for people who aren't listening, I'll kind of let people know who I am. I'm a writer. Okay. At the end of the day, that's the title that I choose to own. I'm a writer. I'm a storyteller. That's what I do. I'm a communicator, and like, this is a form of storytelling here, what we're doing. And so I don't want people who ever listen to me on any show think that I'm claiming to be some expert on this or that, or I'm your guru, or I'm your mentor or your master. No, I'm a writer, and I just happen to be into spirituality and politics and a big swath of things, and I like to be, to express myself. So, and this is a mistake that a lot of people in the internet culture have been making, is that they'll get on YouTube and they'll see presentations, and there's a disconnect between, well, this person is on a screen, right? And we've all been conditioned in our generation to respect and pay attention to that which is within a screen, right? How many times has Dan Rather come into your living room and you trust him, And then when the internet kind of comes around, the leftovers from the 80s generation and everything, we have this knee-jerk reaction to, if we see it on a screen somewhere, this person must be an expert in whatever they're talking about, or they wouldn't be on this screen. But everybody's carrying around a smartphone, a high-definition camera. Anybody can get in front of a camera and say anything now. Am I making sense so far?
Oh, yeah. We all get it, yeah.
And so you'll see these cult of personalities popping up on social media and YouTube and stuff like that. And, that's great. I'm glad that people are out there. And some people who are out there are doing it for nefarious reasons. I think a small percentage. But I think a good bit are doing it. And maybe sometimes it goes to their heads, the following that they get. But for the most part, there are great people out there. And all I believe that all of us are really doing is coming together in a particular age in human history to collectively bring a mass amount of knowledge together. And all this knowledge, we live in a species that has mass amnesia about our history, right?
Well, okay, so I want to have a question about that, because this is the kind of stuff that kind of blows my mind in an interesting way, because Rhonda and I have researched a lot about that, okay? Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I found, actually Rhonda found it, but I'm going to blurt it out, mm-hmm. was that the human body, the female human body, when it initiates pregnancy and it starts to develop, the baby starts to develop in the womb, the woman actually produces a chemical and gives it to the baby that causes it to completely mind erase.
Really?
Yes. And Rhonda, do you remember what I'm talking about?
Rhonda went to go get a cup of coffee.
Okay. She can't hit the mute button. It's always the mute button with her. She's like probably sitting there talking away.
I was. It was the mute button. Yeah. And you know what? It's funny because I don't remember the name of this chemical, but when we had Lauren Spencer on the show, who actually did the alien interview and posted the interview, this was something that I incorporated into the show. And I will try to find the name of this chemical, but it's a chemical naturally made by the female that erases the actual memory of the soul before the soul is actually born. And I found this fascinating because this is something that is incorporated into the so-called quote-unquote alien species. And I don't know if it's incorporated with, God or whatever, or if that was supposed to happen to erase our memory so that we don't remember anything, so that when we come to this earth, we actually come here to better the soul. And why this so-called chemical is produced in the female body to erase the memory of the new soul, this has got me dumbfounded. This has got me so baffled. And I can't find any answers because there are no answers for this. So this is something that we will never know. I don't know. I really don't know. And I have to find the name of this chemical so that I can just show you, Daniel.
Okay, I have something to add on this.
Oh, do you? Yeah.
Oh, hi, Gary. When did you join? You finally decided to show up.
Hi there. I thought I'd just put in. It's oxytocin.
What does it say it again?
I was just looking through a book as you were speaking about it, and it's actually oxytocin. That is the chemical that basically erases the memory when a child is born.
Yes,
it's the
Gary.
Oxytocin from the mother.
Yeah,
okay.
Oxytocin is also released in the brain whenever you have physical contact with another human being. It's like kind of gives you a euphoric pleasure thing.
Yeah, it's like the cuddling and the love hormone, if you like.
God, okay. So with that, my question is, because you had said something before to me about you believe that we have past lives, or that we are reincarnated, or that something like that. Is that true, or am I making that up?
No, I said that. And to kind of cap up what I was saying earlier is anything that comes out of my mouth, I'm not saying it's so, and I'm not saying,
good, yeah.
You know what I mean? Look,
no, this is great. Yeah, this is all, yeah, good. I'm sorry.
I believe that all of us have a unique path, and I believe that we also create our own reality, and I believe that every reality is valid. So if I say something and if it resonates with you, okay, then take it, go with it. If it doesn't, then it means it's not a part of your reality, right? So I don't claim to be an expert, or, I'm not starting a religion, I'm not building a church, but I do believe in reincarnation. Not only do I
explain to me, okay, and I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you off because I know you're going in this direction, but I want to really define it, because as far as I'm aware, in Christianity, most Christians will say that that's not possible because when you die, you go to heaven.
Well, they should read their Bible.
Okay, let's go there.
They should read their Bible. I mean, and this is, are you guys there?
Oh, I'm there. I'm
okay.
putting myself out so that I can hear you good. I'm listening.
We're here. Yeah,
okay,
we're here.
Cool. This is my belief. I believe that there is a difference between what's called reincarnation and recurrence. I believe that there is a difference. This is me. Now, I do say reincarnation because, most people have a certain idea of what reincarnation is. But for me to be specific, I believe that there's two, recurrence and reincarnation. What's the difference? The difference is that recurrence is you don't remember your past lives, and reincarnation is you do, and you choose your next incarnation. So that's kind of my understanding. Now, reincarnation in the Bible is all over the place. I mean, it's everywhere in there. The Bible absolutely teaches reincarnation. Now, why do modern Christians and all the denominations not believe in reincarnation? Okay, so we need to start there. Well, with the idea that you only get one shot at this thing, and it's either hell or heaven, you immediately have fear over a person. Fear-based mind control. You've already traumatized them with this idea of hell, and that you only get one shot, and that's it. And, the Christian church or the Christian understanding is like Baskin Robbins at this point. Pick your flavor on how you actually make it to the pearly gates. You ask 50 different Baptists, you'll get 50 different answers. Right? I mean, that's just the way that it is, and that keeps you in fear. So the reason that the Christian Orthodox Church doesn't have the doctrine of reincarnation is because of the control of the masses through fear. Now, like I said on the show with Chuck Ocelli and you the other night, people like us who are spiritually inclined, who are on a spiritual path, can't make the mistake. Typically, those who are on a spiritual path like we are have been religiously abused in some form or fashion. Am I off on that?
No, I think you're absolutely right. But we've got somebody in the chat who is requesting a passage out of the Bible. And normally I would not slam a guest with that. But I feel like after our conversations that you probably have that information. And so if you could give a couple of passages that show that reincarnation is displayed throughout the Bible.
Sure.
Maybe that'll kind of calm the chat a little bit, and we can move on.
Groovy. Okay. Now here's what I will do. Okay. I will show you where it's at in the Bible, but I'm going to do like Jesus. I'm not going to give you book, chapter, and verse, because Jesus didn't do that. He said, as the law and the prophets say. That means go look it up yourself. Okay. Find it yourself in the Bible, but I will tell you where I have read it. Now, let's look at the term reincarnation. Well, we know, anybody who knows a little bit about etymology knows carne means the flesh. Re means again. So to re-enter the flesh. So let's make sure that is the definition, right? Reincarnation, to re-enter the flesh. All right? We all agreed?
Now I'm
definitely, yes.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, for reincarnation to be true, the only requirement is for one person to have ever reincarnated. If that's true, reincarnation is true. Okay? It doesn't take everybody to reincarnate. Just if I could prove one time in the Bible that one person reincarnated, reincarnation is true. Well, you don't have to believe that, but it was enough to convince me. So, if you ask an Orthodox Christian who is speaking in the beginning in Genesis, in the book of Genesis, when the creation happened, because it says, let us go down and make man in our image, an Orthodox Christian would say, well, that's the Trinity. That's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Right? And so we have Jesus by their interpretations in Genesis. Well, if you go a little bit past that and you get to Abraham, after the slaughter of the kings, when Lot, his nephew, was kidnapped, after the slaughter of the kings, it says that Melchizedek came to meet Abraham, and Abraham paid him tithes. Now, whenever the Bible talks about Melchizedek, it says that he was without mother, without father, without beginning of days, without end. And he was also the king and priest of Salem, which would later become Jerusalem. Well, so we have this fella, his name is Melchizedek. Abraham is paying tithe of him, which is, reverence, a form of worship. So you have Abraham in an act of worship with somebody in the flesh, in the carne, okay? And that's the only time that Melchizedek is mentioned in the Old Testament. Well, according to Levitical law, you can't have a king and a priest because everybody was broken up into the 12 tribes, and if you were a part of the kingly tribe, you couldn't be a priest and vice versa. There's only one person who could be both king and priest, and that is the Messiah, according to biblical interpretation. If anybody, Orthodox, I'm not talking about every swath, because like I said, Christianity is like Baskin Robbins, but I'm going with the mainstream and traditional interpretations. So there we have the Messiah going under a name Melchizedek in the Old Testament, because he was in the role of king and priest, and Levitical law strictly forbids anybody else except for the Messiah to be a king and a priest. So we have the person who would later be known as Jesus Christ in the Old Testament. Well, if we go to the New Testament and Jesus Christ claims to be the Messiah and Orthodox Christians accept that, in the book of Hebrews it says that Christ came after the order of Melchizedek, which means a kingly priest, and it says he was without father, without mother, without beginning of days, without end. To me, that looks like reincarnation. Okay, that's one instance. But we can also look when Jacob, I believe, before he was going to go meet his brother, he laid his head on a stone, and he saw Jacob's ladder, a DNA strand, the kundalini, all that good stuff, the yin-yang from above. That's what's in the Old Testament. And he saw angels ascending and descending, and then he wrestled with this angel, the angel of the Lord. And what Orthodox Christians will tell you is that is a Christophany. That is an Old Testament appearance of Jesus Christ in a body.
Say that again. Say that what? A what?
The term Christophany in Christian circles means a pre-Bethlehem appearance of Christ in the flesh. And the Old Testament is absolutely riddled with Jesus Christ appearing before his birth in a physical body. So Jesus Christ is reincarnating all over the place in the Bible. Okay? Okay. Am I making sense?
Yeah, okay.
I mean, this is just obvious stuff to me. I didn't go to seminary, which
right. It's just
I could just read the book and which is so funny because when you start talking about this stuff, Orthodox Christians will say all you need is the Bible and the Holy Spirit, but I get reincarnation out of it without having some preacher tell me how to interpret it, and that's what I get. It screams reincarnation. So that's one instance. Okay, but I could give you tons of instances where the three angels that appeared to Abraham before the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, all three of those entities were actually Jesus Christ, that'll get real trippy, man. But so Jesus is the person we call Jesus is jumping around from body to body to body, and we haven't even gotten to his birth in the manger, right?
Oh, okay. So this kind of blows my mind. I'm just going to be honest with you because I never mentioned. Well, because I forgot until we were talking. Anyway, that was for the chat. This kind of blows my mind, to be honest with you, because I went to a Lutheran school. My parents, at one point, my dad thought that maybe he could reel me in, if I became a Christian for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And so I did catechism and all of these different things, and I don't remember ever really learning anything about the Old Testament.
That's too bad.
I don't remember ever that. I'm trying to think about, when you open up the your Bible,
mm-hmm.
What's the difference? Explain to me the Old Testament, the New Testament, the 91, 80 million rewrites of whatever. Explain to me some of that, because you also did a write-up about the Book of Enoch, which I thought was fucking fascinating.
No, I wrote a novel about the Book of Enoch.
Sorry. God, what an ass.
I'm going to tell you guys, the Book of Enoch has got me fascinated because I had visions and heard the name Enoch before I was even introduced to it, and I didn't know why.
Okay. Well, that's why, Daniel, that's why you're here with him. I'm sorry to downgrade a novel, because I've only read, I just got the download, mm-hmm. And then I went through all your stuff down in your page, and anyway, there was so much information, Daniel. I'm going to be honest with you, I've spent this last week watching videos and reading about you, and I still don't feel like I really have a grip on everything that you do. So,
okay, well, let me. I'm going to send you a link real quick in your Skype.
Quite interested to hear, the differences between the Old Testament, and New Testament, and you get the Dead Sea Scrolls and all of that. Just if you've got some, sort of general history of your knowledge on those type of things, what the differences are, that would be great.
All right, yeah, sure. Let me explain to people, and I just dropped a link in Skype. I don't know if you got that, Sherri.
Sorry, I do, and I'm actually going to put it into the chat.
All right, okay.
I did that already, Sherri.
Oh, see, he's on it. Okay.
All right, yeah. What I'm mostly known for is my novel, Then Came the Flood. You can get that everywhere. You get it at Amazon. Obviously, you're going to get the better deal there. BarnesandNobles.com, BooksAMillion.com, any place that sells books. Look up Then Came the Flood by Daniel Lewis Crumpton. It's a whopper of a novel. It's almost 500 pages. And what that entire novel is based off of was after I was introduced to the Book of Enoch years ago. It fascinated me so much to the point to where I have a very vivid imagination. I could see this world this antediluvian world that was more mystical than any Hollywood movie we can ever see, that was biblically based and talked about these angels that are called the Watchers coming down on Mount Hermon, cohabitating with the women of earth and creating this hybrid race called the Nephilim, or the fallen ones, or the earthborn. Some of them are giants, but that's not exactly what the Book of Enoch says strictly. I mean, this is where we get our minotaurs, our centaurs. This is where your Mount Olympus and the gods descending upon the mountains come from. If you look in the Book of Enoch, it greatly details that there were these heavenly, extraterrestrial, interdimensional beings that Christians happen to call angels that came down and, took wives and created a race that was demigods.
What does antediluvian mean, Daniel?
Before the flood of Noah. Before the flood of Noah. The word deluge is in there, so it's before the flood. So the world before the flood, and I was a Sunday school teacher in the Baptist church when I was introduced to the Book of Enoch. So I was actually teaching about Noah's flood, and then there's the passage in Genesis chapter 6 that specifically talks about why the flood happened. And it wasn't because, man was so sinful. It was because these angels created a hybrid race, and they were about to make humanity extinct. And so the flood came about as a judgment on these half-breeds. And it's in the King James Bible, it's only a verse. And then it never mentions it except for in the New Testament later. And the Book of Enoch is all about that instant, what led up to the flood, what happened when these angels came down and started giving humanity technology that humanity was not quite ready for. And as there's nothing new under the sun. We especially in alternative media, we talk about, they are taking over the Illuminati, the elite, and 33, and all these things like this. You know what I mean? And we have to understand what's going on in the present with the matrix system that's all around us. We have to go back to these ancient scriptures and see what has happened in the past, because the story keeps repeating. And so that just fascinated me. And so I said, well, I'm a novelist. I'm a fiction. I can sit in front of YouTube for 3 to 6 hours and watch documentaries that most people only have the attention span to on YouTube for 10 minutes. You know what I mean? So how do I deliver all this information that I'm learning to people to where it's not them having to learn, almost like a Trojan horse? And I said, I will tell all this stuff that I'm learning in a fictional way, as a Trojan horse, to teach. People will, especially younger people, which is really what I'm aiming for. They are going to pick up a book that's more like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter quicker than, say, the Book of Enoch, right? And so that was kind of the idea of that novel, was to teach people all of these ancient things that I've been learning about the Bible and how it all connects with Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, all of it. How can I teach that in a story form? And so that was the genesis of that novel. So anybody who's interested in any of this, the subject matter that we're talking about, as far as I go and pick up Then Came the Flood. Not because I'm the writer and I wrote it and all that, but I did put a lot of love and work into it so that, a little sugar makes the medicine go down. You can learn this stuff and get these references for this stuff to look up later if you read a story. And it's a damn good story from if I may say so myself. And as others who have read it have said, it's a really good story. And if it's okay if I tell you the synopsis of it?
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, it's the background of it is in a biblical context. So you're looking at an Old Testament type scenery, if you will. My books are very visual. They engage your imagination that way. And it's a story of a man named Kima. And the story picks up with him. He's older in age. He's not a frail old man that we would imagine people in the Bible. You always see these pictures of Noah, building a boat, and he's skinny. And I'm like, well, logically, if he was building it for so many years, he'd be a pretty cut dude. And because of the environment before the flood, they wouldn't age as quickly as we would, because clearly it says in the Bible they lived to be centuries old. So I said, if Noah was real in that environment, the ecological environment before the flood, he would be a pretty physically fit dude, if not very intimidating, and very capable. Not these pictures that we were showed in Sunday school of a frail old man. I mean, he's doing carpentry every day. You know what I mean? And so the character of my story, Kima, is set in that kind of an example. He's an older man. He knows there's fewer days ahead than there are behind, but he's capable. And
don't they talk about him being like 300 freaking years old or something?
Yeah. Before the flood, the lifespans of a human being was quite long. And my novel explains why. There was an outer, according to the Bible, there was an outer canopy of water around the earth that protected us from certain radiations. And most people think that, the water from the flood came from a rainstorm. No. It was the water canopy above our earth, and it was also the water that was in the fountains of the deep that broke open. It wasn't just like a rainstorm,
And what about the axle shift and things like that have been defined in science as showing why and where a great flood might have happened? Do you know what I mean? I'm just kind of...
Yeah, all that's in the novel. All of it is in the novel. And these are, of course, they're my theories and theories of other people who are out there, Christian creationist scientists, which I respect. I don't believe in everything they believe in, but I respect their research. They're doing it biased. But hey, so is state-funded scientists. Come on, everybody's got to get their grant money somewhere. So I could just look at both sides and listen to both sides, and I can tell you what I think happened. I do believe there was a global flood. If you ever look at a topographical map of the Earth, there's like a rift, the Great Rift. Obviously, the Earth at one point was at a perfect axis, and it cracked open like an egg. Right? And so I believe in a worldwide flood, because I've looked at science, and I just, I don't know. I wasn't there. Nobody else was, so you're free to believe whatever. I just happen to believe that, there was a great deluge. And I can see that in my imagination, that it wasn't just a rainstorm. And one of the scientists that I heard who was a creationist said that if you go outside and you look at the moon and you see all those pockmarks, and then you actually do the time measurements, we assume that that's years and years and years and centuries of meteoric bombardment. But when you do all the measurements, and I'm not a mathematician or anything, but I'm just trusting what they said. They said that all of those pockmarks, or at least 80% that you see on the moon, had to happen within a 30-minute span. 30 minutes, right? And then if you play it out with what these creationists say, it basically was the fountains of the deep inside the Earth. When they exploded, it was like 1 billion megatons of pressure, and it was debris from Earth that hit the moon in, within a 30-minute period. Now, you could believe that or not believe that. I'm just telling you what inspired me to write this novel, was that when I heard that, I walked outside and it happened to be night, and I looked at the moon. And with that information and with that concept, the moon was looking back at me, and I was humbled with that.
Daniel, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Quickly about creation in general, because that's something that really interests me. And without going into what I believe about it, I just wanted to get your kind of understanding on.
You mean
what do you think about creation in general? Because I know you've brought up the phrase like creationists, and it might be nice to just hear you explain what you mean by someone who's a creationist and someone who's not, and the Big Bang Theory and all of that. I'd just like to hear your views on it.
Yeah, well, I'm not one or the other. I like to see, I like to amalgamate whatever makes sense to me. And I guess the question is creationist versus evolutionist. Not even evolutionist, but the idea that there was an intelligent designer or not is really what it boils down.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing I'm getting into. Yeah.
Well, okay, so here's me being a layman. If we are sending probes and astronauts out, and a part of NASA's charter is we will know that there is life out there, okay, in the cosmos, if we find geometry. Because nature doesn't create geometry. Only intelligence can create geometry. So if we go and we start finding right angles on other planets, we have no choice but to conclude there was intelligence there. So this makes sense. NASA does this. This is in their mission statement, right? So if we're going to look for intelligence out there, we look for structure and design. Okay, so do we have a creator? Well, DNA. To me, that just goes, somebody wrote that shit. That takes an intelligence to do that. You're never going to get the Encyclopedia Britannica up in an airplane 5,000 feet, throw it out the window, and it assemble itself in alphabetical order. Ever. It's, that just makes sense to me. So that's just where I stand. But then again, I have a lot of friends who are atheists, and they don't believe in an intelligent designer. I'm good friends with atheists. They are some of the most moral people I know. And one of them we talked to, and I said, look, I ain't trying to convert you to my church, but let me just ask you a question. You don't believe in God? No. And I go, well, are you conscious? He goes, well, yeah. I said, well, so you're sure that you're conscious, but you can't really, account for everybody else, right? And he goes, right. I said, well, then you're the most highest intelligence to you. Therefore, you're God. So therefore, God exists. He goes, oh, you got a point. I go, look, I just took you from an atheist to a deist in 6 seconds.
I love it.
So even if you're an atheist and you are conscious, you're God. So good job. It takes a lot of. You should be proud of yourself. You've become God. So be a benevolent God. Be good to your creation, which is everybody outside of yourself. And I think a lot of atheists get that on a subliminal level, and that's why they are some of the most moral people that you will meet. Is because they don't necessarily have to have the fear of a hell, but they do have the fear of having to live with themselves.
Well, and I think that almost all religions that are maybe not considered mainstream, but are maybe of an ancient heritage, seem to involve a lot more morality than what I see happening in most Christian circles, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And this is something I was saying earlier. So I'm going to quit talking about my book. Then Came the Flood. You guys go look it up. It's about all this stuff, and it's a really good book. And it would help me out because I need to eat too.
And it really is a good book. I unfortunately did not read the whole thing, but I went through, and it is fascinating. You're a fabulous writer, and when you said about the stories, that they're captivating stories.
Oh, so, well, I'll tell you what, and I really appreciate that because it means a lot to me. Because I was born with a pen in my hand, and that's my passion, and that's my vehicle, and so I really appreciate that. I do. But I also want to let people know, if you go to zeninthecar.com, that's ZENINTHECAR.com/ Then Came the Flood, you can read the first 3 chapters for free. And if after the first 3 chapters you're not interested in it, okay. But if the first 3 chapters do it for you, then please get the book, and all the links are there. So there's my commercial for that book. But
you get that address again? I didn't quite catch that.
It's zeninthecar.com / Then Came the Flood. I'll try to put a link in there in a second.
If you'll put it there, somebody will put it in the chat, and then they can go, and because that's kind of what I did, and it is captivating. So I'm excited about people being able to kind of get a different perspective maybe on some of the writings that have been, in my opinion, misinterpreted, or maybe that's not true. Maybe they've just been interpreted for a different purpose. Mm-hmm. And so it's nice to see a difference.
Yeah. Actually, if you can give me 1 second and let me grab my handy-dandy King James Bible, I'd like to share something with you if you don't mind. Hang on.
All right. Awkward silence. Sherri?
I know. I'm sorry. Because I was just okay. This is so... Usually I would not be into this at all. And I am truly fascinated. I mean, I do find what he talks about interesting, because it seems like he does kind of the same interpretation that I like to do when you're breaking things down. It's like you take out the pieces that are probably true. Well, who knows? I mean, again, it's all perception, but the pieces that are true, and then kind of analyzing and taking out the indoctrination of the human.
Truth is only someone's interpretation. Who knows
That's
what
right.
Who knows what the people back then, thousands of years ago, were actually seeing or thinking.
Don't get me started on truth.
You a truther?
Oh, he's like totally. Well, I mean, it is about truth, but the problem is truth is the truth for each individual, and so to go into, well, this is the truth or that is the truth, well, that's a pretty hard. I mean, that's like saying, well, this is for sure purple, and then you have somebody who's colorblind, and regardless if they're going, yeah, that's purple, that's not what they're seeing.
All right, sorry guys. My Bible was underneath my Quran and the joy of cooking. So.
Oh, good.
Oh my god, that's like my favourite quote I've ever heard. Sorry about that. My Bible was underneath the Quran and the joys of cooking. That's just brilliant.
Is that already out there, or did that just come up with that?
I think that should be your next book title.
All right, copyright.com.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
So I just dropped that link for the novel in there, and the writings that I think you're reading right now, Sherri, is more of me talking about metaphysics and all this stuff, and that's at zeninthecard.com/DLC, the downloaded content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a minute, but so, okay. This is just me, and like I said, this is coming from, I live in Georgia, so obviously I'm going to come into the spiritual world through the Christian thing. But we have to understand that any religion is kind of like the maze of the Minotaur, has several entrance ways. You know, we all come into the path through whatever area we happen to be in the prevalent religion. So you're going to enter the maze if you're in Georgia, most likely, not necessarily, but most likely through Christianity. If you're over in India, obviously Hinduism. So, but we have to understand that religions, like Santos Bonacci says, that religions are a tunnel. You have to go through the darkness to come out of the light, okay? And a mistake that a lot of spiritual people have made who are here, like I was saying earlier, we've all been religiously abused, but we can't have the knee-jerk reaction of persecuting Christians because all we do when we do that is reinforce their dogmatism. Because every cult basically says that. You know you're right, brother, when they start to persecute you. So if you want to help end Orthodox Christianity and a misogynistic control thing that goes all the way to the Vatican, stop persecuting them and allow them, and they'll fade away. But a lot of my thoughts on that are at the zeninthecard.com/DLC, which is downloaded content. But here's the way I look at it. And Christians hate it, Orthodox Christians. Because I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, like I said the other night. I am not going to take the Holy Scriptures, because I believe that the Bible is inspired and holy. I want to make that clear. I believe that God, whatever your conception of God is, you can call it it's God, goddess, universe, Pete, I don't really care. Once you recognize this source, whatever you call it, I could care less, but I believe that it wrote the Bible. I believe it's inspired. I also believe the Quran is inspired. I also believe that the Book of Mormon is inspired. And I also believe that the instruction manual on my vacuum cleaner is inspired. Why do I believe that? Because I take the Bible more literal than Christians do. And when the verse that says all Scripture is inspired by God, I take that literally. All Scripture, everything written is God-breathed. It doesn't say 66 books that Constantine happened to like. It says all Scripture, right? Now, I don't have to explain to anybody, and I don't want to even get into it because I would be talking now to an audience that I know is more intelligent than that. We all know, like the book of Enoch, there were tons of scriptures surrounding Christ that were omitted from the canon. We know that. Anybody who hasn't gotten to that point yet is probably not, they're not listening, okay? I guarantee you, everybody listening now is already aware that the 66 books of the King James Bible is heavily omitted. That doesn't make what's in the 66 books not true. Just means you're missing some information. Am I going too far out in one field or the other?
No, I'm sorry. I'm muting and kind of putting some of the things that you're talking about into the chat.
No worries. No. So
go ahead.
So whenever I run into legalists, or legalists in Christian circles is like somebody who'll beat you over the head with a Bible. Most people call them Bible thumpers. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't wear that, right?
Judgment.
Yeah. Religion is like conformity. That's what religion is. It's conformity, make you conform through fear and negative frequencies. You'll go to hell. God's not happy with that. Jesus is watching you masturbate. Things like that. That's all fear. That's all negative emotions, and that's what that is. But you don't have to argue with Christians at all. Period. And I don't. And don't argue with anybody of any religion, by the way. Just let them be. That's their path, man. You just be content. But if you ever have to, if you're forced into a situation where you have to converse to them, the go-to place in the King James Bible is Romans chapter 14. Okay? So, for anybody out there listening who's ever had to have a migraine because they had to deal with a religious relative over the way they dress, behave, or their practice in life, and hear them drone on and on and on to save their soul from hell, because God loves you, like George Carlin would say, just mark Romans 14 in your Bible. And if I may, I would like to read it.
Okay.
Okay, here's what Romans 14 says. Him that is weak in the faith receive ye, but not to doubtful disputations. For one believeth that he may eat all things. Another, who is weak, eateth herbs. Let not him that eateth despise him that eateth not. And let not him which eateth not judge him that eateth. For God hath received him. Who art thou that judgest another man's servant? To his own master he standeth or falleth. Yea, he shall be holden up, for God is able to make him stand. One man esteemeth one day above another, another esteemeth every day alike. Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. He that regardeth the day regardeth it unto the Lord, and he that regardeth not the day, to the Lord he doth not regard it. He that eateth, eateth to the Lord, for he giveth God thanks, and he that eateth not, to the Lord he eateth not, and giveth God thanks. For none of us liveth to himself, and no man dieth to himself. For whether we live unto the Lord, whether we die unto the Lord. Whether we live, therefore, or die, we are the Lord's.
Boom!
So,
all right, now, Daniel, explain that to our listeners, because many are not familiar with any of the scripture.
In the most professional and seminarially correct manner, it says make up your own fucking religion.
Okay.
That's what it says. It's saying...
Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I mean, if and you could read it in any version you like to. I prefer the King James because I love the language. It's beautiful. It's poetry.
Okay, Daniel.
Yeah.
I just looked up that verse as you were speaking.
Yeah, sure.
I thought it would be interesting just to see, what the first thing is that Google throws up, and just see what that says. Because, people listening might be thinking, wow, he's just taking that from his own private book and seeing whatever. But as I go to Google, this is what I see. I see, one person considers one day more sacred than another. Another considers every day alike. Each of them should be fully convinced in their own mind. Whoever regards one day as special does so to the Lord. Whoever eats meat does so to the Lord, for they give thanks to the God. And whoever abstains does so to the Lord. To the God.
Does that say God or gods in that particular version that you're reading?
It says God in the singular.
Okay. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
To be honest, just the beginning of that the whole Lord, I'm talking personally now, obviously, but the whole Lord thing, can you explain the Lord to me? Because that is something that as soon as I read that, I think, Lord, who the fuck's the Lord?
Who's the Lord? Yeah, all right. But and let me cap off that Romans 14. That's my interpretation.
I don't think you're supposed to use the word "fuck" and "Lord" in the same sentence, Gary. I think that you just committed a big sin.
Actually, I used to attend.
Thank you for that, Sherri.
I used to just for because I like to go to different, and when I first started my path, I went to all these different denominations and things like. I was what was called a Christian apologist, which means it was my job to study all of the cults and know their doctrines inside and out. And so that's how I can kind of connect these things. And eventually, me being a defender of the Christian faith led me out of the Orthodox Christian Church, because I was like, wait a second, the Bhagavad Gita is saying the exact same thing as the Bible, but in different words. Okay, the Quran is saying the exact same thing the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita is saying in different words. It was
exactly something I found, but I've found more allegiance to the Bhagavad Gita, than the Bible for some reason. Just my own inkling, I suppose.
Yeah, they're all telling the same story, but they're telling the stories to the cultures in which that information came, and I can get. That's why I want people who, when I was asked to write a book on spirituality, I was like, well, I can't do it like textbook, man. I just can't do it. I can talk that way, but when I sit down in front of the keyboard, I can't talk. I can't write that way. And so people were asking me, could you just write a book on spirituality? And so the ZenonTheCard.com/DLC is actually a novel that I'm writing real time. It's a serial novel. When a chapter is done, it's published, and eventually, when it's done, it'll go away, and then it's going to go up for sale. So, but right now, you guys could read it for free. So, every chapter you read the whole book for free if you go to the ZenonTheCard.com/DLC, and it's basically a humorous type of way to talk about my mystical experiences and my spiritual path, including this information and how I got to the Bhagavad Gita, how I got to the Quran, how I got to the Book of Mormon, how coming from the King James Bible. Basically, downloaded content is telling you my journey, And the way that I look at it is like the Buddha. I cannot tell you how to become enlightened. And when anybody went to Christ or Buddha and asked him, what is the truth? Both of them shut up and walked away. Because what are they going to tell you? You know, it's your individual truth, right? So when you read DLC, it's a good bit of it is mirroring my own actual journey and how I got into that. But I see what Santos Bonacci calls syncretism, which is that all of these things are telling the same story. And what is putting up walls between us as a society on this planet is semantics. You call him Krishna and I call him Christ. Therefore, I'm going to bomb your fucking country. You call him Allah, I call him Jehovah. We're at war for a generation. It's semantics. And so me as a writer, I'm able to pinpoint that the woes of all the world's religions and the conflict is because of the misunderstanding of words. And this goes back to the Tower of Babel, which is, by the way, the next novel that I'm writing is going to be a fiction thing about the Tower of Babel. And so if I restate your question so I know I haven't gone too far, I tend to go off.
I'm really interested about that. No, what you just said. You said the next book you're going to be writing is going to be fiction?
It's going to be the follow-up to Then Came the Flood, because Then Came the Flood is very much like Lord of the Rings. People have compared it to that. So that's the fashion of that story.
Okay, so you want to do something on the Tower of Babel, but you want it to be fiction.
Oh, yeah, just like Then Came the Flood is before the flood, my next novel will be a direct follow-up to that story, which will be about the Tower of Babel. And I'm going to talk about the way I saw it, you know, in my imagination, if you will. I'm just going to tell the story that came to me, you know.
Okay, that's fantastic. So that's just something that really interests me, because I've always been, you know, into the dividing line between fact and fiction, you know, between, like, telling stories and getting across and doing it in a style of fiction. I think that's great.
Well, let me put it to you this way. I don't really go by any labels. I'm not saying labels are bad things. They're good. You know, you have labels on things like warning labels. That's okay. Gives people a general idea of what you are. But I don't go by labels. But if I had to identify what proclivity of faith I am, it would be a Gnostic, a knower. And Gnosticism is basically based on first-hand experiential knowledge. Because when you have a first-hand experience of the divine or a spiritual thing, you don't have to have anybody tell you that the other side is real. No one can ever take that experience away from you. Now, if I tell you that and then you believe me and have faith in my personal experience, now we've started a religion. You could believe me, but you better know your own path. Some people astral project and they have that experience, and or they go into deep states of meditation, and that's great. And then people call them gurus and go to them for enlightenment. That's great. You should get a little bit of guidance. But the most important thing in Gnosticism is experiencing these things for yourself. And that's just what I would classify myself as a Gnostic. And Gnostics believe that there's no church of Gnosticism or anything. You'll never see a Gnostic converting anybody else. But it's people who just know, because we've been across the veil into the spiritual world, you know. Anybody who practices any type of occultism, which isn't a bad word, and has experienced these, you know, if we meet, we don't have to convince each other. We just nod at each other. You know what I mean? Right, Sherri, you're a Wiccan, right?
Yes.
So you're no slouch.
I mean, I hate to use that title. I mean, that was my rearing, yes, and I am a witch. Yes.
So you're no slouch when it comes to the metaphysical with experiences, right?
Exactly.
So if you go and you talk to somebody else who practices Wiccanism or witchcraft, you're on sync. But let's say you go to other family members, they're going to have you committed.
Yes, well, there's a lot of that, I think. But it's also nowadays, and you and I had this discussion also, now it's like all of a sudden when I was growing up, it was a hidden thing, and now all of a sudden it's cool. You know, it's like now it's cool to be a witch, to be whatever, you know, is the new.
I saw that movie, The Craft.
Yeah, and people have to understand that that's all bullshit. Like all of that, everything. There's no difference in a male and a female witch. There's no warlocks. That's all made up crap. It's just a witch is a witch. A witch does not ever, a true witch does not ever cast a spell that would do harm to another, because we believe that the universe brings it back to us. Mm-hmm. So
the rule of three.
Yes, and it doesn't, and depending on your true intention, it can go up to, like 100-fold. So you just don't ever, like would never do harm to creatures. You would never sacrifice. You would never do any of those things. The sacrifice you give is like planting seeds or using herbs to cure people or, creating things like that. It's a totally different reality than what people think.
That's right. And you know what? In one way, shape, form, or another, that is what every scripture is saying is be good to other people. Don't be a douchebag, because what you reap, you will sow. Karma. Whatever, it's a law of the universe. The word that you use to describe it doesn't matter. Since I live in the Bible Belt, I have a lot of family members who are fundamentalist Christians, and when I say words like karma, they go, "Why don't you just say you reap what you sow?" And I go, "Because it's less syllables." You know what I mean? And it means the same thing. And you can even find enlightenment and spirituality in movies. So many people in the truth movement are afraid of Hollywood movies because they're like, "Oh, it's the Illuminati symbolism. It's mind control." Yeah, it's only mind control if you're ignorant. If your third eye's open and you know how to read the symbols and the signs, it's not mind control. It's guidance. Which I love talking about Hollywood because I'm a big movie buff. And I just, this whole paranoia, I don't want to name drop, but I'll name drop the dude. I mean, whatever. The Vigilant Christian on YouTube. This dude, it's Illuminati symbolism, in every movie of Satan. You know what I mean? Look, the lightsaber is upside down.
That's how they've kept. I mean, the whole idea is if you can keep people in fear of what can bring opportunity of expansion, then all of a sudden it's just like the internet, or it's just anything that is actually broadening, can actually open up and educate individuals or maybe give them different ideas. Mm-hmm. That's a big no-no.
Yeah.
So it seems like, you know what? It's time. We are going to take a few minutes. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, where I'd like to kind of jump into, you had made a comment to me. Well, I think I said kind of in a shocking way to, that I believe Jesus was a pagan.
Sure.
And you had this whole kind of concept and idea about that, and I would love to talk about that in the next hour if you're good with that.
Sure.
Okay, so we'll be back in a few. So welcome back, everyone. I see that everyone is really enjoying the chat this evening. It's always interesting to me that whenever I try to integrate topics or really try and kind of even expand my own knowledge, it's never the people that are agnostic or of any kind of outside religion. It's always the Christians that come in attacking with judgment and all these other things, which is exactly why on most of my shows I am anti anything that has to do with that. And so having you here, Daniel, as much as my intention is to hear what you have to say and to really integrate a lot. I think that your beliefs and my beliefs are very similar, and I know that you said that, and that's more of where I want to go at for the last hour of this show. But I wanted to say that one of the things that you brought and that you said to me, and I'm going to say, is don't throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Yeah.
And I laughed about that, and I've thought about it a few times, and I think I've repeated it even, but because that is true. There is a lot of good. Christ walked it. He was trying to show people what they're capable of, how you can integrate your being into the trilogy of God, of universe, of creation, manifestation, on and on and on. And so, to me, that is also the way of the Wiccan and the pagan. And in that time, it was more realistic in my research that he would have been pagan. And then you kind of brought to my attention, it wasn't just pagan. I mean, he studied a range of different religions, just like you have been talking about. So can you kind of go into that a little bit more?
No, not at all. No, I'm just making
Thank you.
What I mean when I say don't throw the baby out with the bathwater is don't blame I don't call him Jesus. I say Jesus for the sake of people who do. Jesus is an invented name. It's an amalgamation of Zeus and Yes and Zeus, which is Yes the Son, Yes Sirius. It's the Son and Zeus, right? Which was the two messiahs, the Messiah solar figure heroes before. All right, Christ is not a name; it's a title. It's a title of an entity that can go from one body to the next and reincarnate in whatever age it is needed. In one age, it appeared as Krishna, which literally means Christ. Okay? Born of a virgin, I think, walked on water, fed a bunch of people with nothing, all that. Same thing. And we know that not the Upanishads, but the Bhagavad Gita and the story of Krishna is older than Christianity by quite a bit. Okay? And then you have Siddhartha, who would be the next Messiah or Christ or Buddha, the awakened one. It all means the same thing. Now in the New Age, they call us light workers and Messiah seeds and all that. Okay, same thing. It's the same thing. Enlightenment, the Kundalini, it's all the same thing. All right? And so, Siddhartha comes along, and he's got the same Messiah spirits, Christ in the flesh. He touches his higher self. And then we get to Christ. All right? Us spiritual people believe in, we have a good understanding of this, but because we've been religiously abused by the church, when we see that picture of Jesus, it just boils our blood because of the way that Christians have treated us. Well, that's not Christ's fault. It's not Yeshua's fault. And so we shouldn't not read the Bible. It's not the Bible's fault that people have used it as a weapon. Go watch that movie, The Book of Eli. Spoilers, but I'm sorry. It's a great movie to watch to understand. One man is using it to heal people, and another man uses it as a weapon. And it's like a knife. I could take a knife and I could cut you with it or cut you a piece of bread with it. What it is neutral. It's whose hands it gets in. Same thing goes with the Bible and the message of Jesus Christ. So don't blame Jesus Christ or Yeshua or Issa for the way that Christians have treated you. It's because of their ignorance. They misread what was said. So that's kind of what I mean by don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You Wiccans you will never expand your craft any greater than if you pick up the Bible and read it from one cover to the other cover, because all these scriptures are like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. All of them. You want to understand?
I do agree with a lot of that. I do understand what you're saying, and I do agree with a lot of it, but I'll be honest with you, being the smarty pants that I think I am, what I have more of a tendency to do is kind of tear apart the Bible in a way that makes more sense to me, and that is including the Son of God. To me, the Bible's not talking about Christ, he's talking about the actual Son, the S-U-N, right? And there's all these different ideas that to me...
Yeah, but...
Go ahead.
And I hate to interrupt you, but regardless, if it's talking about the Son, okay, or it's talking about a man on the earth, we don't have to take one side or the other because they're not both self-defeating. It could be both. And it is both in my view, because as above, so below. As within, so without. If it is a story about the Son, that means that the play that we see every day, every night over our heads must happen here on earth on this level, as above, so below. So it is talking about the Son, but it is also talking about a man, I believe. And I also believe that same story goes down to the subatomic level. That story is happening in our cells. It's happening within our minds, our bodies, our cells, all the way down to the quantum universe. The story and the cycle of the Son is happening as above, so below. It's all happening at the same time. So they're not exclusive, these ideas. Well, I believe the story of the Gospels is only about the Sun and the Zodiac. Oh, well, no, I believe it's about a man. But they're not. They don't defeat each other, and both can be true. And in my opinion, they are true. We got to think on more than 4 dimensions here. You know what I mean?
Well, and I do know what you mean. And I think that the thing that is still just kind of eating the way at the back of my mind, and maybe it's because I need to stop looking at the chat, but it's the thing that keeps kind of eating at me is that I feel that when you put anything outside of your being, right, and you and I have this discussion, and so I know that you're going to be able to expand on this. In the Christian faith, it's basically saying that Christ came down here and he died for you, and so now you can just be saved because he handled all your shit.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
All right. The first question that we have to ask that Christians have failed to ask is this: is that concept something that Jesus Christ actually taught? Is that what the scriptures say? Okay, that's the question that we need to ask. And so we need to go. And this is going to tie up who is Lord and was Jesus a pagan? Well, in Psalm 82, You can go in there and it looks into the Old Testament and it says that ye are gods. It's verse 6. I have said ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. And you will hear Orthodox Christian browbeat you and use all of what they call hermeneutics. And let's go to the Greek and let's go to the Hebrew, because that word gods right there doesn't really mean gods like it's written. Okay, you have to go into the Hebrew and the Greek. But then on the same token, they tell you the only thing you need is the Bible. But in order for them to say in Psalm 82:6 that it doesn't say gods is to leave the Bible. That's circular reasoning. And look, I used to be a Baptist Sunday school teacher, and I still believe on Christ, okay? When we get to the New Testament, Jesus, the character Jesus, whatever, Yeshua, quotes this verse. So clearly from the Hebrew to the Greek, how many times can you fuck up the word gods?
Right.
Right? So, yeah, Jesus was a pagan. And let's go further with Paul, okay? When Paul gets to, I don't know if it was Rome or if it was Mars Hill. I'm not quite sure. I get it mixed up. But Paul shows up. He's the new apostle, the rocking apostle that took over Judas's place. And so he's supposed to be spreading the gospel, God's word, right? The word of God. And he gets to this parapet, essentially, where there's all these statues of the Roman gods, Zeus, Athena, and all those cats, right? And then at the end of it, it says in the Bible, in the book of Acts, if I'm not mistaken, that when he gets to this last statue in the pantheon of the Roman gods, it says, to the unknown God, okay? Are you guys familiar with this story?
I'm not, so please keep going.
All right, yeah. So Paul is there, and he says, he's seeing Zeus, he's seeing Athena, he's seeing, Aphrodite, Ares. He's seeing these statues, right? And then there's one that says to the unknown God. And basically it's like the Romans were like, in case there's any God that we forgot, we show you reverence too, right? Okay? And what Paul says whenever he goes to preach the gospel is, he says, I suspect that you people are too superstitious. I came to you to preach to you about the unknown God. Okay? Now, why is that relevant? Paul did not take...
Say that again. I'm sorry. Say that one more time. I want to hear that one more time. Okay.
When Paul stands up to preach at all these Romans, he says, I suspect you guys are too superstitious. And he says, I have come to teach, I'm paraphrasing. I'll look it up in a minute and read you verbatim, all you fundamentalists. But he says, I have come to preach to you about the unknown God, the one that you're not aware of yet. And then he preaches Jesus Christ. Okay, now what is critical to note is that he did not bother for a second to dispute, disprove, or argue the other gods. He just said, hey, I want to talk to you about this new cat that's in the Pantheon. He didn't waste any time saying, oh, wait a second, you guys need to knock this fucking statue of Zeus down. Because Paul knew that there like Neo said, and anybody who really wants to get into Freemasonry and understand, I don't want to get off on that, but go to Matrix Reloaded. If you want to know everything to unlock the idea of Jesus Christ and Christianity, go to the scene, just fast forward it to when Neo meets the architect. Obviously, there's your Masonic Illuminati symbols, right? The architect. Well, and the big thing there that most people don't get, which is the key to all your scriptures and Messiah stories, is that when the architect says you're faster than the others, Neo is surprised to find out and says, others? What others? What is Neo? He's the Messiah of that age, that universe, that dimension. Okay? And now he suddenly comes to the revelation that he is not the only Messiah. And he said there's only one explanation. Either no one has told me or nobody knows. And that is what has locked the minds of Christians. They believe there's one Messiah and only one Messiah. And when you show them, or they have the revelation that there is more than one Messiah because there is...
Say, Daniel.
Yes.
Morpheus said that he was the one, and everyone questioned Morpheus, but everyone questioned Morpheus but Morpheus.
That's right. Yeah, when you know, you know, you know. When you have a first-hand experience, you know that you know that you know, and no one is ever going to be able to take that away from you or make you doubt it. People who have seen UFOs or have had abductions and stuff, you will never convince them that they didn't eat for a week or somebody slipped them a Mickey. You know.
That's right.
When you see shadow people or reptilian shapeshifters or you astral project or you have visions like the people in the Old Testament, you know, and no one will ever take that truth away from you, ever. No, you will never be able to be manipulated by anyone once you have crossed the other side and you have intimate knowledge of something.
Okay, now see, this is where I can confirm that. Okay, so I get I'm a little confused. You know what I mean? I was brought up Catholic, and I've had a few different experiences, like my brother overdosing and me praying over him, and he was declared brain dead. And they brought him up to ICU, and as soon as they removed life support, he sat up and started talking like nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
But I had a vision during that prayer of something, and, I was brought up with the belief of, and I still believe in the Blessed Mother, the Virgin Mary.
Oh, me too.
And I pray the rosary every single day, and you know what? I'll tell you something, Daniel. Everything that I pray for, she comes through for me.
Yeah, no doubt. I've never been in the Catholic Church. I'm sorry?
What's the
rosary? I have
rosary?
to say... Oh, I'm sorry.
You said you pray the rosary. What's the rosary?
The rosary is something that it's of the Catholic origin.
They're beads with a cross.
They're beads with a cross and a picture of the Virgin Mary on them. And, and this is where I get really confused. You can't worship statues and you can't pray to different beings other than a god because it's not right and so forth. But I'll tell you something. Even with the children at Fatima, this is an very old story. And there was one gentleman who was a scientist and he was a doctor. And he was there to witness the Fatima vision, and he did not believe in it. And when he went there and witnessed these children looking at something that nobody could see but them, and hearing the birds sing, and then all of a sudden these birds stopped singing when this vision appeared. This is the stuff that you have to ask. People don't believe in it. People say it's made up. People say that they're making this up with the Catholic religion. But I'll tell you something. All of the saints that are still full-bodied after hundreds of years of death.
I agree with you, but I also think that people, they want to be able to follow something and have some understanding of this reality because we don't really get it. And so to have Catholicism, in my opinion, what they've done is they've taken the pieces of teachings that may or may not be of whatever, Christ or whatever it is. But if you look at how indoctrinated, it's always taking you outside of yourself. But when you have faith, you have a deep faith in anything, because I use the universe and it does the same for me. So it's like, to me, that's saying it doesn't matter. And I think that this is where Daniel was kind of at too, is it's like, it doesn't matter. You can sit there, everybody can say that they have the answers.
You have your own answers.
Bam, that's
right. Yeah.
And it's like, to me, when I sit up and I'm talking about the universe and I'm asking the universe to show up for me and whatever crack is within me and all that stuff, and then it shows up the next day, bam, that's the universe, that's God showing up for me.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of the Eastern religions, they have the idea of the guru, and a lot of us over here in the East, in the West, think of the guru as, like a Jesus type that you go to and you pray to, but at the root of that is what they call Sadguru, which is the guru within yourself. And eventually it leads to the guru within yourself. That is where it's all meant to lead to. So it doesn't matter whether you're praying to Jesus or whether you're praying to a Buddha or whether you're praying at all, whether you're looking at an object, whether you're looking at a marigold or a sunflower, you're looking at that object and eventually it takes you to yourself. And it's just, in my opinion, it's just a way of focusing on something that takes you towards yourself and makes you realise that whatever you're looking at is not separate from yourself. It's not separate at all from yourself. It's the same as like a lonely boy who goes to a river and he sits next to the water and he sees his reflection and he sees that he's sad and he's lonely, and he looks at that reflection and it comes back to himself and he sees that actually all there is an absence of anything at all. It's just a reflection. There's nothing else. And he sees that the sun looking down on him is also looking for something. It's looking to shine on something. He's looking at the trees around him, and they are looking for something. They're lonely, they're looking for something else. And suddenly he sees that the whole world around him is lonely, and that's himself.
But it's also, to me, it's deeper than that, because yes, that's a good example, but it's actually, and I know that Daniel agrees, or we've talked about this, that everything is a reflection of what we hold within us. So whatever is coming up into your consciousness is what you're holding. It's what your lessons, whatever people want to believe the purpose of the planet is, our cellular structure is in repeat. It is projecting out and pulling in the reality that we experience. So, Daniel, do you want to kind of jump in there and tell me your perception on what Gary and I just said?
Absolutely. Sure. I think a really good way to understand the concepts that just came out of his and your mouth, which was brilliant, by the way. It makes me so happy because now I'm like, I'm not alone. There are other people who speak my language, and I think that to wrap your head around it in a really quick way, go to YouTube and look up Arcade Fire's song Reflector, okay? The song Reflector. But make sure you do it with... Oh, my God.
That is one of my favorite songs ever.
Right. Make sure you do it with the lyrics on the screen, okay? And the reason I say that is because I also study psychology. I'm a big Hannibal Lecter fan, so, I like psychology, and I read Tony Robbins books and self-help books and all that type of thing, so that's just a hobby. But if you actually see the words on the screen while you're hearing the music, okay, you're kind of matching up two different frequencies as a form of self-hypnosis. That's why I love listening to music on YouTube with the lyrics on the screen. It's engaging my words, making connections in my brain. I'm hearing it through my auditory. Then there's, visuals. All of that is working, right? But I like to multitask. So to surmise that whole concept of everything without is actually within, and everything is a mirror of ourselves, how do we wrap our heads around the fact that we are actually Donald Trump, right? Which is... That's the roadblock that people who are thinking in that way have, which is, wait, if everything outside of me is me, why do I get so pissed off at my neighbor? If it's me, I would never do that, right?
Bullshit. But yeah, exactly right. You hold it somewhere, you've done it at some time. There's something that triggers you, and and a lot of times, and I had another question about this, because do you believe that the mirror can be something that somehow gets transferred at a young age? Because it seems like I had a recent experience with a client that basically she was having all of this wounding, and the life experience that her reality was having was like a complete and total mirror, not for herself, but of the mother. Like everything she was saying, she's giving a description at 4 years old of being fat and not intelligent. Mm-hmm. But what 4-year-old on the planet really thinks that? Do you know what I'm saying? Like your mind doesn't even work like that. So that somehow got injected by the mother, saying it or whatever that is. But then she proceeds to live on with it. How would you describe that? How is that working?
Well, and I don't know if you've caught it, but I'm rather long-winded. So that gets back to that's what we get back to what we were talking about earlier, which is oxytocin erasing memories. Now, I don't know anything about oxytocin erasing memories. What I do know is that all of us, who especially are spiritually inclined, know that something on a massive scale is wrong. We all have that feeling. And the best line that I've ever heard to describe that feeling or unction that all of us have is, it's like a splinter in your mind. We all intuitively have known, we went through a stage that something's wrong, somebody fucked us up before we got here. We should have more answers when we get to this planet, right? And that knowing is the birth of philosophy, to seek out the answers to those things. And I have my opinion because this is my opinion, but we have to, look at the birthing industry. Let's just start with this country. Let's look at the birthing industry. There's an excellent documentary for people to go watch by Ricky Lake, I think, and it's called The Business of Being Born. You really want to get a grip on all this type of stuff on reincarnation and why we have to come to a knowing that everything is actually us. We're living in a holographic universe, right? How do we connect all these ideas? Because you would think that we would know it. And I've been talking to a lot of people lately who've been asking me these types of questions, off air and stuff. I'm like, the reason that these big truths that we're hungering for are so hard to put into words is because it's ineffable, as the Buddhists would say. It's unknowable. There are no words. That's why all these
people don't want. I'm sorry. I'm going to just jump in here because I want to hear your reaction to what I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
People don't want to hear the truth. People don't want to take responsibility, and they don't want to actually have to look or be in the reality of we are all in creation of what we are experiencing. So if somebody is, really focused on all of the negativity in the planet and on the planet, energy doesn't have prejudice. It doesn't matter what direction you're going. If you're feeding it, you're feeding it.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like, to me, again, I think people are lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think?
I think that, whenever I've been practicing this thing called self-observation, which is it gives a person more power. And I think I mentioned this, so I'm not going to get into great detail, but what takes us away from our power of being the creators of our own universe, to be like Neo in the Matrix, to bend the Matrix to our will. Some people call it the law of attraction or whatever, but using our energy to manifest things, or transmutation. Okay? You following me? Right?
Oh, yeah.
So what we have to understand is that with energy, it is neutral. It will go wherever you send it. But in order to really harness that energy, you have to become what all religious faith teaches is mindfulness, stillness, and being in the present tense, the present moment. That is the only place where you have power. You'd have no power in the past because it's done. And the future never really comes. So the only place where you can actually do anything is in the present moment, right? But look at how we behave in life. We are always either ashamed about our past, or in regret, which is negative energy pulling us to the past, something we cannot change, or we're worried about the future, how we're going to pay those bills, how am I going to take care of 3 kids, all these types. That's negative energy into the future. And I say we're all crucified between 2 thieves, the thief of the past and the thief of the future. So the key to doing like Neo and saying no to bullets, to controlling and harnessing that energy to influence the world around you in a way that you want, rather than it seeming as if it's happening to you, rather than you are it happening. Does that make sense?
Say, Daniel.
Yes.
It does make sense. Go ahead. Sorry, Stephen.
Okay.
I brought up another movie on air that kind of gave that same, for instance, also, what Neo stopped them bullets.
Yeah, he realized that the bullets were him.
Yeah.
That's what he realized. Whenever that person is agitating you at work, you need to practice what is called self-observation. And here's what I do, okay?
Do you remember Tombstone?
It's been years, but go ahead.
The main character. I don't remember his name now, but...
Wyatt Earp?
Wyatt Earp, yeah. He rushed that whole gang, that whole cowboy gang, and they were all shooting at him, and he said no like 3 times. And he rushed them, and nothing came close to hitting him.
Yeah, your imagination is the most powerful tool you have, and I'll get into that. But how do we get into the present tense? How do we get into the present moment where we actually have power? It's self-observation, and this is like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the more powerful it will get. For example, whenever you drive to work or you wash your dishes, you go into automatic. You're thinking about something from yesterday or something you're going to do tomorrow, but you're never there in the moment washing dishes. Or you're never just driving to work. You're just on autopilot. That is where you have no power. So start setting triggers. When you catch yourself doing those things every day, ask yourself 3 questions. What am I doing? What am I thinking? And what am I feeling? And then that will begin to bring you into your present tense, to bring you power, in that you are in the one actual place where you can affect the outcome of tomorrow. And you start to do that daily. However it works for you. Whenever you just say to yourself a few times, whenever I open a doorknob, I'm going to ask myself 3 things. What am I doing? What am I thinking? What am I feeling? And that'll make you still. Go ahead.
I can give you an example of this from today, Daniel. You know, I've been working. I was doing like a 12-hour shift today, which was, a long time. And as it was getting towards the end, it was like 3 or 4 hours left, and I can see that my mind's ticking along. I'm watching, and I can see that my mind's going, 3 hours to go. Like that. And at that instant, I can see, well, what is actually troubling me here? Mm-hmm. What is it? What I'm doing? Is it what I'm feeling? No, it's the fact that my mind is saying I've got 3.5 hours to go now.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It's as simple as that, and that's the thing that's troubling you. And once you can see that that's what's it's not actually what's happening. Right. When you drop into that moment and say, "Hang on, what's actually happening now?" It really is that simple.
Well, let's talk about the concept of fear. Okay, fear is a pretty good energy. That's how people control the world who want to control the world, through fear. One of the most devastating negative energies you can have on you. Okay, I want to go ahead and get rid of everybody's fear. What fear actually is like a gauge on your car. Okay. And, when your gas is low, the gauge will go to E, okay? And the light will pop up, and that kind of alarms you a little bit, but it's a gauge telling you something that you need to be aware of. All emotions are. So fear is like a light on your car dash. And here's what it means. It doesn't mean change the oil. It doesn't mean your gas is empty. It means that something in the foundation of your belief structure is not true. That is fear.
That's good. I like that.
That's the truth.
That is a very interesting concept. Yes. Okay.
So whenever the next time you have this emotion of fear, don't be afraid. Like Douglas Adams from Hitchhiker's Guide says, don't panic. In visions I've had, that was something that was told to me. Don't panic. Everything's going to be okay. It's all a simulation. Bill Hicks said, it's just a ride. It's your ride. You are the programmer of a very elaborate video game that you have entered into, and the name of the video game is Pretend That You're Not God. And the people who are really fundamentalists, you should applaud them because they're really good at this game. Because at the end of the day, every religion says that we are all in the body of God. There is no spot where God is not. We are all cells in the body of God. We are miniature universes, right? Does that make sense?
I love that.
Am I getting too evangelical?
No. In fact, no, not at all. In fact, because, and I think that maybe you and I even went this direction before, but we just touched on it. I truly do believe it's not a metaphor when you're talking about the universe being within us. It's if people actually study how vibration and energy works, and how our planetary system is in collation, and how the moon and the sun and how the earth are all being generated by all of these different vibrations, just like the body, like the inside, all of your organs through the subconscious mind are constantly functioning, right?
In the beginning, God let us make man in our image, in our likeness.
Bam. And then Jesus even says, I whatever, and I'm going to mess up the quote, and I'm sure people in the chat will just eat me alive, but it is saying that, you can do the same and more. And he's talking about the miracles that he performed, the healings that he did, turning the water to wine, all of that. And he is telling people, if you walk it, and it's not about, to me, I'd like to this time has gone by so fast, and we only have about 15 minutes left, but I would like to hear your idea on baptism. Because, in my opinion, what Christ was trying to do through the water was clear the soul and allow for an opening where they took it into an indoctrination of, now it's the mark of the beast. That's my opinion. So what do you think?
I've never heard of any. I've heard some crazy ones. I hadn't heard that one. Whatever. Baptism, and this is Crumptology, or the Church of First Crumpton, I don't know. But to me, baptism represents the water birth, which is your natural birth, into the matrix, which is what the word means. The matrix comes from the Bible. It means a woman's womb. Okay, so the baptism of, when Jesus is talking to the rabbi, he says, you must be born again. And the guy's like, how can a mother climb back in his room, or his mother's womb? And he says, you must first be born of water and then of fire. This is talking about a natural birth, and the rebirth of the Kundalini, the fire of the serpent, that Hindus call the Kundalini, the enlightenment. Okay, that is the baptism of fire. You have to be born again. You have to do the alchemical work within yourself to raise the Kundalini and have that fire baptism before you're born again. Christians have no clue what they're talking about. They believe if you believe that Jesus died on the cross and he saved you, then you're born again. They're missing it.
That's right. I think the big problem today with people who follow different religions, and with what Sherri mentioned, you can do what I can do.
Oh yeah.
People lack belief in themselves to do this, and they second guess their belief, and no matter what religion that they're in.
Yeah.
And that's the problem right there.
Yeah, but you got to keep in mind, okay, if we are people like us who have this understanding that there's really one rule and it's don't hurt other people, be cool to other people, help where you can, don't see that others don't advance in life. It doesn't matter if we call it wickedness, it's just being a decent human being. We're on a level, I believe, of what the Bibles and the scriptures refer to as angels. We are angels of light workers, whatever you want to call us. But we are enlightened, and it's our duty to not get angry at these people. Forgive them, Father. They know not what they do. They're just ignorant.
Right.
You wouldn't hate your kid. Your kid who is about to stick a butter knife in a light socket, you can't get mad at the 3-year-old. He's a 3-year-old. So these people who are antagonistic to you, you have to go, you know what? I'm on a higher level, and I ain't going to stoop to their level because I have a bigger plan, and I'm going to heal that person and help that person, and in doing so, I'm healing some part of myself, because at the end of the day, this is an outward manifestation of some ego within me.
Ooh.
It's so true. It really is so true. I mean, this is baffling me. It's just so amazing.
Well, what I think is interesting that you said just now is people have a very interesting perception of ego, and in my idea of what ego is, regardless of the definition, ego is the separation, like the leaf of the tree.
Mm-hmm.
But when you fall into just being the leaf and you don't acknowledge the roots that are feeding you, kind of thing, then you're just a tree. Then you're just a leaf. Do you know what I mean? It's like we have to actually acknowledge and experience the branch and the whole tree to actually understand maybe that deeper experience that we're looking for.
Right.
And
well, before we go too much further, there is something that I did want to say, and I think that it's my duty to say it, because I started out looking for peace after my father crossed over, and it took me away from the Orthodox Christian Church into Zen meditation and Buddhism and things like that. All right. Now, how do I say this? I'll tell you what, Sherri. Say what you were just saying.
Shit!
Because I need a second on this one.
Okay, now I have to I was already moving forward and typing stuff in. So I think basically what I was saying is that, you know where I'm going to jump? Because what distracted me is somebody had written in the chat that Kundalini cannot be a part of Christianity.
Yes, it can. It is. However, how it's represented in Christianity is the menorah. There's 7 things to a menorah. When you get to the New Testament, it talks about 7 foolish virgins and the 7 wise virgins who had oil in their lamps. 7. It's talking about the chakra system, the spinal column, the ganglion nerves, and Gray's Anatomy. You can look it up, Stedman's Medical Dictionary. You have chakras. There is a cerebral spinal fluid that goes down it and comes up and has a mind-altering effect. And this is all. Look, don't even have arguments with people who don't know this stuff by now. That's, you know what I mean? They just don't know. But it's in the Bible. When you get to the book of Revelation, there's 7 fires in front of the throne room, and it says it's the 7 spirits of God. This is talking about the chakra system.
That's right. That's right.
So it's in the Bible. The very fact that God commanded Moses to put a bronze serpent on a pole in the Old Testament and tell the people of Israel that that's how they're going to be healed, they have to look up to the serpent. That's your Kundalini.
That's right.
Jesus Christ in the New Testament, the Christos, the oil that comes from your pituitary gland, it's up on the cross. You know what I mean? All this stuff, it's all scriptures are encoded messages on how to do what's called apotheosis, which is raise the Kundalini, if you don't like that, to become enlightened, if you don't like that term, to get saved. But it's to open up that connection with the spiritual. And it's, I like the word Kundalini because you're going to have a better understanding if you do research of that. But it's this, it's internal alchemy. And what religion does is it puts a Messiah outside of yourself, and then it gives you the understanding that as long as you just believe that somebody else did all the work, that you don't have to do any work yourself, no internal alchemy to ascend, to evolve, to get a glorified body. Okay, that is why there's always an outside Messiah that does all the work for you. Oh, I believe in him. He washed away all my sins. No, you still got to do the work and make it right with people. You have to do the work.
You know, it's funny because, you know, when they say that the Bible is the book of life, there's every truth in the Bible about life and how to live it. That's the truth. It's just too bad that it was rewritten so many times and there was a lot of things left out of the Bible. I had an old teacher.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I had an old teacher about 4 or 5 years back who told me the Bible is just a bunch of bullcrap. You know what I mean? And the original Bible that was originally written is where all the truth lies. But you can't get your hands on it anymore. You know, there might be 3 actual Bibles that are still around today. And you know what? I believe in that. I do believe in that. I don't care what anybody says. That's what I believe. It's what I've always believed. And the people who don't understand will try to throw it to the ground and burn it on fire. You know. But it's the not knowledge of it which makes people think that way.
It's not just the not knowledge. It's I mean, it is. You're right. But it's also the way that a lot of the Christians act. You know, it's because they don't really. It's just like what Dan was saying. They don't really know, and so they're spouting off things, and they're standing in riots, and they're judging, and they're doing all of these things that are actually completely against what their religious base is supposed to be about.
All right, I go to jail a lot because it's a great experience for meditation, and I always go to prayer circle. You know, now I'll pray with anybody. You know, I translate whatever you said God's name was to whatever my understanding is, and we're cool. You know, but the last time we were in prayer circle, there was this young kid. He's like 19, had no business being in that jail, and we were in prayer circle, the elders in that particular room, and we were talking about scriptures and this and that, and you know, trying to encourage and give these younger guys a little bit of guidance, right? And this 17, 19-year-old kid starts trying to preach to us, right? And this is what I said. I stopped him from talking after about 5 minutes, and I said, "Hey, let me ask you a question." He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Have you read that Bible from one cover to the next? Have you read from Genesis to Revelation?" And he says, "Well, no." I said, "Then shut the fuck up." I said, "Until you've done the work and have read that entire Bible, don't come telling me what that book says."
Right.
Shut the fuck up. You know, and in AA they say, "Your God says fuck too?" Yeah, my God says fuck too. Okay. So I told the kid, and it shocked him, like we were talking earlier, sometimes a well-timed F-bomb. That shook that kid up. Like, shut the fuck up, dude. What you gonna tell me the Bible says that you haven't read it from one cover to the next? Sure, it's been deleted. Sure, you know, whatever. But there is a divine force that is bigger than anybody's ego that tried to manipulate that book. There's enough in there for you to get. And I'm very glad that truth is spread out across all these religions and scriptures because you know what? The truth isn't for the unworthy. Jesus said that.
That's right.
Jesus said, "Don't throw your pearls before swine, lest they turn and rent you."
Bob!
Okay, so there are some people who need to be deceived. Like the Roman maxim says, let him who will be deceived be deceived. They're not ready to be enlightened. Shut the fuck up. That's why Masons, they're not going to recruit you, and they're not fucking talking about it. Because you're not worthy yet. You've not done the work in any particular religion, in any particular school. You got to do the work. You've got to work.
Yeah, it's true. And, you know, it's kind of interesting because I think that it's not just, it's in any form of any, like, I feel like I'm constantly self-analyzing. I'm constantly looking at how it is that I'm creating the reality, what I'm contributing, how I'm not saying that I by any means am perfect or always do it the way that even I think I should, but I at least have the consciousness of it. And I think that that's a huge part of. Go ahead.
I'll tell you another little technique that I do to try to get a firm grasp on this whole holographic universe and manifesting your reality and stuff like that. Is I'll like go to Walmart or out in public, and I will just find random people and intentionally lock eyes with them and say something to make them laugh, compliment them in some way, give them some piece of advice in some way, and then just walk away, right? Okay, and people who are, you know, there's a lot of people who think that you're making people uncomfortable. Nobody wants some dude just coming up to them at random in Walmart and saying whatever, or at CVS, right? But when you do that, you're connecting with yourself, right? Everybody has something negative going on in their life. You don't know what's going on in somebody's life. That rude bitch at Burger King that, threw your ketchup at the back, her mom might be dying of cancer, man. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That guy that cut you off in traffic might be trying to get to go see his daughter who's like on a respirator. You don't know. So assume you're going to live a better life when you assume that everybody who's in that way is in a place of pain, and you can, even if it's just a word or a smile, look for every opportunity you can to engage with other human beings outside of your comfort zone and do something good, no matter what it is. And watch your world change.
Yeah, it's amazing you say that, because I say every day when I get up, dear God, please let me today save one soul. And when I go out, I do the same exact thing, Daniel. The same exact. Yeah. You know what? It's amazing how it just transforms your day.
It does. It changes your whole world.
Yes, it really does.
You're depressed about something. You got problems. Go take care of somebody else's, and you'll find that while you were doing that, your problems took care of themselves.
So true. So true. I couldn't agree more.
So, I know we're in alternative media, and there's still a lot of people in alternative media who are like, the Illuminati, and black helicopters, and all right. All right, well, let me give you guys the solution. We don't have to have no hot revolution. We ain't got to go do some, any of these great philosophical ideas. All we got to do is make a difference in our daily lives in any way that we can, and start with ourselves.
That's right.
Look in the mirror. You're not some insignificant. We all have so much power. And you ain't
Why does that have to be? I mean, I'm just going to throw this out there because we've only got 5 minutes. And why does that have to, why do we even have to have this conversation? This is to me, it's not about a religion or anything else. It's if you're just you don't have to always be nice to everybody. You don't always have to walk around floating with wings and acting like, nothing is going on the planet that is not disruptive, or that we don't have different energies or balances within us, but to just be kind.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. You don't, I mean...
And don't be fake about it.
That's the thing. Don't have alternative motives. Just be a freaking decent person. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
And watch how your entire world will change. That's how we're going to bring down the Illuminati and mind control and chemtrails.
You just hit it.
That's how we fix it. It's not hard. It's not a struggle. All we got to do is do that. You do that, we got it, and we win. And the revolution's over, okay? That's all you got to do. Be good to yourself first in the morning, and then find people. Don't wait for people. Go actively finding people that you could do something good for.
There you go.
That's how we win all this horse shit. All you internet bloggers and everything can shut down because that's how we fix it. You guys wanted a solution out there. There it is. Be good to everybody. Be cool. Be chill. Be a good person.
I think that, yes, be a good person. And then I bring up judgment, and then people throw in the chat that Jesus didn't say to not have judgment. He said to have judgment with discernment. And that means basically, it means that if it affects you, then yes, go ahead and have your reaction, do whatever it is. It means, on the other hand, mind your own fucking business.
Yes.
You don't get to decide what everybody else is going to think. You don't get to interject your opinion on everyone else and then walk around in judgment and thinking that you're so high above the rest that your opinion matters than anyone else's.
Mm-hmm.
Let it go. Your
That's
ego.
right.
That you're not any better than anybody else. Get over your fucking self. That's, we all need to take responsibility and take a look at what we're doing and what we're projecting out. And if we are walking around thinking that we are anything but connected, then we are the ones who are creating the diversity that is causing this planet to be in an uproar.
And we have to wrap up, Sherri.
Right.
Okay, well, guys, good night. I hope that everyone's enjoyed the show. The chat was fun and interesting as always. Daniel, thank you so much for coming on. I am hoping that we can have you back soon and have more discussions like this. I really enjoyed it. And
thank you. I appreciate it.
Downloaded Content Podcast. Downloaded Content.com.